Welcome back from Trump's cabinet to the waning days of the Biden presidency, and Congress is now back on Capitol Hill. Lots going on in Washington tonight. Two guests with me tonight here on the show to break it down. Democratic strategist Antjuan Seawright, conservative analyst Naysa Woomer, both up late with me tonight on the Final Five. Welcome back to both of you. Good to see you.
Hi.
Things have evolved since the last time I was here.
In many ways than that. I want to get your sense as a Democrat, Antjuan. You know, a lot's happened in the last week. What do you do? Do you look back or do you look forward?
Well, two things happen in elections from my perspective. You either win or you learn. I do not couch as a loss. And I think we have a lot to learn, both in opportunity and in obligation. If you look at the results across the 7 battleground states, it was demographics and geographics that probably where we found ourselves losing the most. White working class voters were a big chunk that went for Donald Trump that traditionally have gone in the Democratic column. You look at the Latino voters and you look at women. I think that we focused a lot on the reproductive freedom, reproductive justice argument, and we did not focus on the economic bill of health of everyday Americans, not the macro, but the micro, my personal economy. From all the exits and all the data, we know that there were two things that were very important. Change. Donald Trump presented himself as a change agent, as well as the economic conversation. And sometimes we made assumptions about the electorate that did not play out in our favor.
Naysa, my fellow Pennsylvanian, as you look at where this race went, Democrats thought when John Fetterman ran for Senate in 2022, he went into a lot of these counties that did vote for Donald Trump in 2016 and did vote for Donald Trump in 2020. Democrats maybe thought Tim Walz was sort of going to be their inroads there. It went the other way.
I mean, I'm still shocked over the fact that even, you know, we now have Senate-elect Dave McCormick. I did not even expect that to happen because you even said you're done when I texted you separately.
Defeating, by the way, the longtime 3-term Senator Bob Casey there. But
what I was just about to say, though, I think with John Fetterman, he's kind of got the John Murtha effect a little bit here, too, because, you know, John Murtha was congressman for nearly 40 years in the Johnstown area of Pennsylvania, which is as
red as it gets.
Yeah, I was going to say it's the reddest of red, and this was a Democrat who was able to keep a seat in an R+17 district for nearly 40 years. And Tim Walz should have had that same kind of effect, just having that very, like, he's, you know, very Midwest nice and could have, you know, really spoken to the voters, especially in areas like Johnstown or even in Luzerne County, which I had learned had turned, I thought it was always red, but it was flipped from blue to red through voter registration. So these were just missed opportunities. So
when you mentioned about the economy there, Antjuan, because it's one thing to say, you know, the job rate is great. You know, we're seeing more jobs being added. But if you don't see that, that's where the problem is. Perception is the reality. Bernie Sanders came out not too long after the election and said Democrats really forgot their way, talking about how they kind of ignored the fact that those economic issues out there. In fact, there was something that he had said to that end. And there it is right there, and you can see it on the screen. It should come as no great surprise that a Democratic Party which has abandoned working class people would find that the working class has abandoned them. So how do you bring them back into the fold? Or by the way, a lot of people are looking at Bernie Sanders and saying, sit down.
Well,
feel the burn.
Certainly we do not dismiss anyone who has input because we're a Big Tent party, but no one will be having the same conversation had Kamala Harris won. Certainly we did not hear that in the midterm elections where we defied political gravity and political physics. But what I will say is we've done a hell of a job talking about and speaking to the macro. What we did not speak directly to was the micro. The micro is what you can feel, not necessarily what you can see, but what you can feel. And elections have become more emotional in this country. And you have to remember, it's easier to vote against something than it is to vote for something. If people are frustrated and they cannot find connective tissue to government or how it's working for them, they're going to vote against that. In this case, it was a vote against Kamala Harris because it's easier to be angry than it is informed.
Well, as mentioned, the winner has been decided, obviously, decisively so. We're now looking ahead towards building a government, building a cabinet. A lot of those new members of Congress are in D.C. as we speak right now. We're looking at this cabinet shaping up. Marco Rubio, likely at the State Department, it seems. Kind of surprised if you followed this race back in 2016, where you went from little Marco to, you know, the fourth in line for the presidency.
Next to be Secretary of State. I did not expect that at all. I mean, I think it's an excellent decision on his part. I think we're kind of seeing a shift in this new administration administration, and I'm trying to be optimistic and realistic at the same time. Try not to make the same repeats from the first administration. Having someone like Senator Rubio, it was a great pick because, number one, we already know he's going to get easily confirmed through the Senate, through his colleagues. We even had our own fellow senator from Pennsylvania, John Fetterman, who actually tipped his hat to Senator Rubio. So if we see good people like that, but the one I'm still a little mulling over is, you know, the fact that we have Lee Zeldin, who's going to be Secretary of EPA, and with his background, it would make more sense for somewhere like Homeland Security.
Pete Hegseth, Fox News host, just earlier tonight was nominated or will be nominated as Defense Secretary. Antjuan, as we look ahead here, though, for Democrats, there was, in 2016, it was about the resistance. How do Democrats deal with this coming down the pipeline? The voters have spoken clearly. There is that introspection, but to the Democrats, is there an inroad here? Are they going to wait for Trump to put a hand out and saying, I'll work with you, or do you have to be the bulwark?
Well, I think where you cannot find higher ground, you have to find common ground. I think that has to be job one. But I think our strategy has to be AOE, not AOC. AOE, accountability, opposition, and engagement. And in our case, our defense has to be our offense, and we have to win the day, whether it's messaging, whether it's money, whether it is outreach. But we also cannot take any constituency for granted, because politics is addition and multiplication, not subtraction or division. And we have to claw back and win back some of those voters who, by all measures, should be under the Democratic column. But we've made a lot of assumptions, and we have to win them back.
I want to give the last word on this, Naysa. Do Republicans, are they going to look at this differently than they did in 2017 when they had the House and Senate and the presidency?
I really hope that they do. I think right now it's just everything is just, it's even keel again. Learn from your mistakes. And I'm hoping that right now I think the main focus right now is that the U.S. Senate is looking at who's going to be the next Senate Majority Leader.
And by tomorrow, probably.
Well, we don't know. I'm still thinking it's going to be a 2-round, and it's going to be one of the Johns.
All right.
So let's hope.
Well, it's 2 of 3 there. Naysa Woomer, Antjuan Seawright, thank you both for coming in tonight. Good to see you both.
Thank you.